There's one thing that's always been bothering me in Warframe, and that is the Orokin Empire. We don't really know a lot about them, do we? Like an actual legitimate backstory. How they began, where they are, who they are, and all of that. We don't even know the names of the 7 executors or executors. Or how do you say even that? I don't even know. We don't even know them, except for Ballas. So, where did they begin? I'm pretty sure the DE might have actually given us the answer hidden in plain sight, but we didn't realize it. Let me get into it right now. Okay, so we have to begin with the Orokin Empire, kind of telling you who they are, how they began, and what we actually know about them. So, the Orokin, they were post-humans, one might say, right? People who genetically augmented themselves and made themselves superior to other versions of humans in their time. Now, this plays off thousands of years after, well, today's events, right? Now, in 2025 or whatever, right? So, we know that they are future humans, a form of future humans, but how does that tie into Warframe 1999, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you did. But before you do that, please like the video. 100 likes, as always, would be appreciated, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. By the way, I'm visiting my dad's, and that's why we're like in a different scene and scenario, so you're gonna see a few cool things here.
Huh. I just found a cat. Hello. Seems like you're pregnant, aren't you?
In any case, let's get into it. So the Orokin, they were post-humans. But does that not remind you of the Shadow Government in 1999? Right, we don't know who they are, right? Like, we don't actually have any real substantial names or anything crazy like that. But the thing about the Shadow Government in 1999 is they somewhat resemble, and they're very similar to the Orokin Empire. They want to control everything. They want to create this like dystopian future for everybody, and the events that follows with them in charge actually points towards, well, the Orokin that we know. So the Holvanian government are the ones that actually, well, speculatively created the Techrot virus, maybe a form of the Techrot, and they allowed that to kind of escape and spread and stuff like that. But is that not the same as the Helminth strain, or similar at least to the Helminth strain that is later used to create the Warframes? Maybe that's how the infestation began in the first place. I don't know that yet. Let me know in the comment section down below if you know anything that I might not know. So let me tell you a little bit of a story. I know it's all far-fetched and very theoretical, but just bear with me and let's just see this through, right? Okay, so the story begins with the Shadow Government in Warframe 1999. They were the elite of the elite, much like in real life. You have people pulling the strings behind the scenes, right? Now, the Shadow Government was working with a company called Virulence, as well as the Skuldra, which were like a mercenary group. Now, does this kind of sound familiar already? The Orokin, the scientists, the Grineer. Think about that. Either way, so this company, they wanted to be in charge, or actually the Shadow Government wanted to be in charge. They wanted to be better than the average human in a way that nobody could kind of deny their reign. Nobody could tell them that they weren't good enough to be in charge of, well, everything. And they wanted more power, as a lot of the elite does, right? So what they did was they employed Virulence to create a form of infestation, a form of Techrot. Kind of gave them power and money and resources to engineer this infestation, just to see how they could use that as a weapon in maybe combat or maybe in some form of military or something like that, right? But this quickly got out of hand. Virulence, they created this massive infestation type strain called the Techrot, and soon it began to spread. But what if it wasn't accidental at all? What if they purposefully did it so that they can kind of crumble down the entire population, so that the Shadow Government, and them included, well, could rank up a little bit higher, be a little bit better, and maybe use that as a form of mind control, because as we know, they already did experiment a lot on humans, especially with mind control and the such. So this quickly got out of hand. This spread faster than they could ever anticipate, but it's okay because they're kind of going ahead of it, right? They create technologies, they create bioengineered or even mechanical armies and people, and things rapidly get out of hand. Things rapidly go into a situation where now they have all this technology, but nobody to tell them, hey, we don't want you in charge, because normal people are busy fighting the tech rot. Normal people are running away and sacrificing their lives and being distracted by everything around them. And this shadow government sits behind laughing, knowing that they are going to take the reins. And they do. It goes on for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years. And the technology that they're using, it grows, it gets better, and they want to be more superior. So as the tech rot and the infestation kind of spread out or die down in specific scenarios and situations, they realize that people are going to naturally want to overthrow them, because that's just what happens when people are in power for too long, right? So what they do is they permanently, genetically augment themselves to be physically better, to create this kind of appearance that they are superior beings. And they do this by making their limbs longer, giving them the Orokin look, kind of experimenting with everlasting life, because who wants to give up your power if you can live forever? And at some point they do. They turn their own skin blue by genetically modifying themselves, by painting themselves, by creating this picture of superiority, playing on the minds of everybody around them. And before you know it, the Orokin Empire has come to pass. Now we are in the modern Warframe universe. Sub-modern, technically. The Orokin Empire. They were humans like us. People in charge, elitists. And they wanted to stay in power. So in Warframe 1999, this all started, and it might not be a coincidence that Albrecht Intrati also went back in time to that specific time in place. Because he knew that's where it all started. That's where the proto-Orokin came from. And because Albrecht Intrati messes with time, and I know eternalism is a thing, but there's some indication that even though eternalism is a thing and all possibilities are a thing, that the past that Albrecht Intrati went to can still shape and change the future. So what if he was always meant to go back in time? Tinker with things that he doesn't need to tinker with, create the proto-frames, which then leads to technological breakthroughs that at some point in time in the future led to the creation of the Warframes. Now, of course, what do you think? Because that's the most important part here. What do you think happened? Do you think that it's plausible that the Shadow Government, Virulence, even the Skaldra might have been the Proto-Grenier, the Proto-Orokin, and the Proto-Scientists relating to the Orokin Empire? Let me know in the comment section down below, and as always, I really hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for the next video. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, Dano.